The good dudes grow 2.0.
How you doing, Jeff?
Yeah, there we go.
How you doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. I appreciate you coming onto the show like this, like short notice, and answering my email.
Oh, absolutely. No, thanks for having me on.
So, just to give you a little background on the podcast, it's a new podcast. I work for the fire department,
Okay.
and what I'm doing is I'm trying to bring or lose the stigma around cannabis and hemp to help the firefighters deal with PTSD, depression, and opiate abuse. I lost
Awesome.
my I lost my daughter to an opiate overdose, so this is how I got
Yep.
involved in all this. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get people stories like yours. I know yours is a good story to bring to people because you were in the NHL. You left when you didn't have to for specific reasons for the same thing that we're
Yeah.
going through to people that are trying to regulate things that are actually more beneficial for us than actually letting us try stuff. So, how about you just let us know how you started, how did your NHL career go, then how the whole story went through, if you don't mind.
Yeah. No, I'll give you try to speed it up as quick as I can. But I grew up in Saskatchewan in Canada, so I always dreamt of playing in the NHL. I loved hockey. Ironically, I had great parents at a backyard rink in Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan. So I had everything, just all hockey, and just loved it. But as you get into your teenage years with alcohol and you talk about drugs or pills or getting into girls and relationships, that type of things. It's very real, and I think we are people, that are all the same, that we struggle with physical challenges and mental challenges, to be honest. Sleep, anxiety, depression. You could lose a loved one. I mean, we're all going through so much. So
Right.
for me, it's just really important to have, you know, I guess a substance that can help you medically, or help you solve the problem. And maybe that's just giving you a little inner peace where you're calm. It's, for me, it's really about finding, what works for you, and being a professional athlete and going through the entire NHL career. I spent a lot trying to be a top fitness champ. I was that in San Jose, so I put a lot of emphasis on being in great shape, but I had a hard time sleeping. I played through multiple shoulder separations for 3 months where I'm getting cortisone shots. And again, this isn't blaming the NHL. I loved every second of
Right.
being in the NHL, but it's more about just doing what's right for your body and doing what's right for the longevity of your life. Where people look at alcohol, that's one way you bury physical and mental pain, and you kind of become someone else, so to speak, or you just need a break from the day, and you just need to just be able to relax. And the addiction part with all of these things, are certainly something to look at. But for me, when you look at the cannabis plant and the cannabinoids and all of the medical values, I read books on, just book after book on all these values. And my heart's really in, can it help, not only hockey players, but firefighters, cops, just every single person on the planet. If there's any opportunity, and especially when, having kids and having a daughter, like my daughter, the last thing I want is to be on alcohol or pills or something. I just think marijuana for me is not thrown into all the hard drugs. I think it's, alcohol. I know it's been part of our society and people use that, but it can be very addictive and can be very terrible to someone's life too. So I think marijuana, just in general, my heart just speaks 100% to say there's truly medical value there that can really help a lot of people. And I hope the scientists really just keep pushing this forward. And and who knows when the day is, but there's more and more medications derived from that plant.
Right, right. And my background, I'm originally from Canada. I'm from Montreal, so I'm a big hockey fan. I hung out with Patrick Brisebois in the time and all these, and Eric Desjardins and all of them. I never
Yeah.
really played hockey. I had two choices, either get on skates or skis, and I kind of chose the ski area.
Yeah.
In Canada, you got those two choices, two winter sports. But I understand where you're coming from. As an older, I would say, weekend warrior athlete now, I started doing like CrossFit like 10 years ago, and I started competing and started, hurting myself more and more and beat myself up. And I tried to find stuff to actually help me recover better and all this. This is where I fell into the hemp and the cannabis. Well, not cannabis per se, because we're not allowed as firefighters, but this is where I started studying more and more of the benefits of it. And as I studied that, I realized I came into realization that my daughter from car accidents was actually hooked on opiates. And so then I started going like the medical way of like, maybe this can help her off that. How can that happen? And like you, I started reading a bunch of books. I started doing anything else. But I'm not sure about out there. But when I started looking at it, it still wasn't legal. It was hard to. The biggest thing is finding a reputable source, because as soon as people saw money, it became like everything else. All the mom and pa's came out. Everybody came out of the woodwork. Everybody was selling anything. You can buy it at the gas station. You can get a Slurpee with it. You never really knew what happened, and that's where I finally found a proper place to actually get the right stuff. And unfortunately, it was too slow to help my daughter. But that's where we created the whole aspect of, well, let's try and help firefighters, because we go through stuff, the stuff we see on a daily basis. Most people see us as, right, we're cool. They see you on a calendar. They say they're cool, they're tough, they're this. But every day we're getting pretty much, how do you say, slapped in the face with either a kid dying, your parent dying, mangled bodies, and then you're 24 hours on stress, waiting for that bell to go off to jump at 100 miles an hour. And I don't feel that there's enough conversation about cannabis and hemp. It's more pushing people towards, like you said, recreational drinking. Like, all right, I had a bad day. I'm going to go to the bar. I'm just going to start drinking. And then next thing you know, it leads to sleep disorders. And then I'll go to the doctor, get a Valium here. And then next thing you know, I'm trying to work out. I hurt myself there. I get a pain pill. So like you said, I believe in how it can help. I've seen it help personally. I have some hemp products. I hurt myself, started taking it, and I'll be honest, I thought it was a placebo effect, and it completely helped with what was going on. There are a bunch of studies out there, and I'm really trying to find a way to actually start a conversation with like an upper management style, because they're all, as soon as you say hemp or anything else, they see weed, they say bad stuff, they see terrible stuff. So this is why I'm trying to draw more people that are, I hate to use the word kind of like superstars or whatever, but more the average people that know about it and used it for a specific reason. And those stories can actually highlight how it can actually help. So you started, I think it happened to you, I think in 2005, it started where you tore an abdominal muscle, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And then what ended up happening, it didn't heal properly. It became a hernia. And that's where you started getting a little bit more into like pain management with pills and everything else? Is that how it all started?
Well, yeah, it started, but when I was in my playing days, that's when Big Pharma took a lot of these prescriptions, with weed being illegal. And, there was commercial after commercial, and every 2 years and the patents run out, there's more medications for depression and pain and sleep and literally everything. It was a huge, huge money, as you say. So,
right.
For me, those pills just do not work. And I'm not saying that maybe the odd one does for someone, but for me, it was a vicious cycle, and especially opiates or, for me, Ambien worked, but, people that take that know that it doesn't work after you start taking it, and then you rely on it. And then you gotta crush it or something to get it in your bloodstream quicker, because you won't be able to fall asleep.
Right.
And to me, that's a very dangerous game to play. I know with opiates, I don't really see much benefit other than just really, if your arm fell off or something, you need an opiate maybe. But, to be just something where you're having wine and crushing a couple or having Vicodins or whatever, Oxycontins, Percocets,
Right.
but, for me that, and again, I wasn't a superstar. I was fortunate to start in the NHL at 18. I was on a pretty quick road there. It's not easy to do, but I went down that road where there wasn't options, and I wasn't a superstar, but I know that I was a fitness champ in San Jose, and I took a lot of pride in training, and trying to be the best athlete I could be. So for me, I was trying to do its best for my career too. So
Right.
the last thing I wanted to do was have an addiction kind of derail or really, take away from maximizing your potential as an athlete. So, and a professional hockey player, that was my dream. And, it all of a sudden be trying to do the right thing and become addicted on these things, and really knowing, and looking back, seeing how toxifying they are. For me, it's 100%. And again, I know these things need to go through the FDA and all these things, but I can honestly say I was a professional athlete in the NHL at hockey. I only want to do what's best health wise. I don't, look at it to get high or drunk or any of this type of stuff. It's truly just to manage your life and try to do it in the healthiest way possible. And I think that 100% for me, whether you're a firefighter or anything, I mean, the stigma around it, it's 100% inevitable. And I don't know if it's 5 years, 2 years, 10 years, 15 years, there will be no stigma. This plant is amazing and do a lot of great benefits. And, it doesn't mean you just, rely on it. You still got to work out. You still got to do your normal life. You can't just rely on something and do nothing. But certainly we need good options. And for me, it can really help a lot of people, and even elderly people with arthritis. I mean, when you start looking at all the research and people start looking at fighting cancer, Proposition 215 was put in California because Steve Cubby was told he was going to die, and he stayed with cannabis, and it cured his cancer. I mean, the man's still alive. So
Right.
That's how it all started, and that's to say there's real evidence when things like that happen. But I know pain, inflammation. I mean, people that deal with pain, you get very irritable. You're angry. So to have medications that are safe that can help manage that with different options that are available. I mean, to me, a lot of them are a joke because they are so addictive, and even alcohol for that matter. I mean, I know it's recreational, so to speak, but
Right.
truly people use that to deal with pain. So I don't know. For me, it's the FDA. I know you got to go through it, but I don't think FDA people are professional athletes. So I don't know. I just think there's been too much bad stuff out there, and I'm really, hoping and praying that the cannabis will just keep continuing. And there's so many things like autism that hasn't been touched. There's tons of research for that to help.
That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing I find.
PTSD. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many people that go through that. I mean, like you said, being a firefighter, I can't imagine. And I have had friends that are firefighters and cops, and the things that both of those industries see. It's not something you see on the media. It's just, I've done ride-alongs. It's something that I couldn't do, and I have a lot of just kudos to cops and firefighters because the things they see, or even surgeons that deliver babies. I mean, there's just certain things I know I could not do, and
Right.
but you go through a lot when you have to go and answer a call, and you see all the emotional pain that a loved one that. Who knows? I mean, firefighters, I'm sure, see it all. So it's a whole different world. So at the end of the day, when you're battling through that mentally, I think that there needs to be the right medications that are safe for the public. And I believe that cannabis can medically really make a difference and impact for a lot of people. And I hope that I'm correct on that. I think it's inevitable. But again, I'm not a know-it-all. It's just something in my heart. I love hockey, and I think going down that road, it led me to a plant that I think can be very beneficial for a lot of people, and in a responsible way. And hopefully, we can get there.
Right. And that's the biggest thing that most people don't realize. There is a lot of literature out there. There is a lot of studies out there. You just got to look for them. They're not just going to, be on the news and show you. So when people tell me, oh, there's nothing about it, it's not, some of it's anecdotal, but it's not all anecdotal. People are doing more and more research continuously on the plant and everything else.
Yeah. And one thing on that, just for me, is I lived through that. So for me, in my heart, I know that it does work, and I know that the research, I mean, to have major insomnia and have just the things that I was diagnosed when I was playing, and they were all, a lot of tests through the highest doctors in the NHL. They're really good doctors, and it's not treated like it's a joke. So I was diagnosed with all these things, and it just came to a point one day where, it just wasn't the answer. I was on medication to medication, spending time and, seeing a psychologist, psychiatrist. I mean, it was just never ending, ADD, ADHD. I did all the tests, and yep, you have attention deficit disorder, and the list goes on. But for
Right.
me, that just was not a road. It was just continual pills, and I really couldn't find the answer. So, again, it's for me, it's a safer approach medically, but I think it just takes time for like you said, the money. I think when the media doesn't want to say there's a lot of research out there, but there's more than people think. The research has been going on for 30 years. I mean,
Exactly.
GW Pharmaceuticals working with, childhood epilepsy. They have autism programs. They're the world leader, and just working with CBD. I think THC, they've just started to go through the FDA and should be approved shortly. And I think that'll be a big move for marijuana when THC is looked at with all its great benefits too. And I know there's a risk of the high or whatever, but compared to opiates or alcohol or Ambiens or a lot of these, it's you can smoke all the weed in the world and not come close to the toxicity of those, in my opinion. So I just think there's a safer approach, and I think a lot of people could benefit. But to me, it's laughable that people look at it like there's no medical value or it's just a recreational thing. It's it's more than that to me. But I guess time will tell. But I think it's inevitable. We'll see.
Are you currently working with any companies now? I think I saw you working with one company. Are you still with the same company?
Yeah, I've actually. I mean, hockey is my true love. I mean, I know in my heart cannabis just through my life journey. Even when I was growing up, my mom and dad were very against marijuana because it was really, my dad probably would have whooped my butt if he was just dead against it. So for me, I went through this naive world at 31. I wasn't introduced to marijuana really. I mean, it was just something where I said, I'm all these pills, and someone said, why don't you get your med card? We're in California, and I thought, well, it stinks. I don't really, I don't really know, like, really, it was just, and at 31, I was amazed, and I had struggles reading. I mean, my story could go on and on. I mean, I had really struggled with reading growing up. I couldn't put words together. I didn't know why. So when I broke in the NHL, I wanted to know why. I saw a lot. That's where it was attention deficit disorder. Yeah, you have ADD. Not schizophrenic, but you have there are gaps when you're reading and certain things. But for me, when I had marijuana, I struggled with all these things, and I instantly started reading on my screen, and it just seemed different. I could fill the gaps. So I don't know if I just think there's a lot of potential for to help people in a lot of ways with this plant. But again, it's up to the scientists and the FDA, but people need to speak out. I have no obviously anymore. I just think it should be accepted as part of our culture. There's really nothing wrong. I mean, people may not like the smell, I guess, and you got to be respectful. And
Right.
but again, the stigma 100% to me is around. It's people that smoke weed and they have 2 beers and then they pop a couple pills, and it's like, hey, I'm going to blame the weed. It's like, no, if you use something medically and you're just, use, even if you have to have a joint or smoke a bong or have something that will leave you at night. For me, even 100%, I say it's okay, just because you can't compare it to alcohol or pills. To me, the mind just shuts down, and there is just unbelievable studies about how therapeutic it is for your brain and just actually developing brain cells, and
Exactly.
and again, it's fighting cancer, autism. It's without a doubt the greatest anti-inflammatory drug you could have. It just does wonders for inflammation. So again, I think there's just miracles. There's 100 different cannabinoids plus in the plant. Obviously, THC and CBD are the dominant. THC giving you the high, so to speak. CBD, no high, but I don't think as great a benefits as THC, and that's just for me. I mean, some people may find just as much in CBD. I'm not afraid of the THC portion in the plant either, but there's also CBN. That's companies are working with rare skin disorders. I mean, and it's more a dream for me too to see these other little molecules and could they have potential, in autism. And I know like THCV, I believe, is the one GW is looking in autism. So I'm just hopeful that, you know, these cannabinoids can play a role in the future and you know, and just help us all.
100% agree with you. Jeff, I'm not going to take any more of your time. I do appreciate the phone call.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anybody, are you on the Instagram or anything that people can follow you at, or
You know what? I'm not. I'm kind of a
quiet person?
Yeah, you know what? I'm not into I can't get into the media. I wasn't a superstar when I played, so I'm not trying to get the most hits or anything, but this is what I love. I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully people out there that are listening, I just love what you're doing, and I know it's inevitable that people will remove that stigma, but it's fine if people, you know, have that, it's okay. But more importantly, I think for the people that want other options that aren't available, certainly cannabis can fill a hole, and I hope it does medically in the future. And I know big pharma, you know, a lot of companies are trying to put the research in. It takes a lot of money, but once I believe THC is, you know, I think it'll be very soon. It'll be helping multiple sclerosis, and then we'll go from there. But anyway, I appreciate you having me on. It was great talking, and maybe we'll get a chance to talk in the future.
Definitely. Thank you for your story, and hopefully everybody enjoys it as well. You have yourself a great day.
Awesome. You too. Thank you.
Jeff. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Good Dudes Grow 2.0. Thank you for tuning in. If you're still listening to this, that means you gained something out of this episode. So make sure you share it with a friend, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Good Dudes Grow 2.0.